Okay, call meeting to order. We have a quorum, committee members present, myself, Philip Lycon, Teddy Holly, and Ray Lambert. Also Cindy Nichols for the city. We will start with U.S. Pledge of Allegiance and Texas Pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Is it hard for you to say Texas in there?
Do it.
Is it hard for you to say Texas in there?
Well, she's happy.
That thing in Chicago?
I don't think Illinois has it.
Well, they never said they pledge allegiance to the rolling flag. Y'all think you're special.
Hey, yeah.
We are special.
I'm missing two of the last three.
Okay, any citizen comment? No citizens, no comment.
Well,
Can't get nothing past you.
I'm smart.
thank you, ma'am.
Okay, the object of this meeting is to review the final drafting ordinance, which will need some adjustments, and the parking ordinance, the final land use plan, and the final land use draft. I hope everybody's had a chance to read them, but let's
We have-
pass copies around.
We have copies for everybody here.
And you have a highlighter.
Yes, I do. There you go.
Thank you.
Did you get your copy, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Got 'em.
You got
Yeah.
your copy? Next.
You got those? These two?
I'm done. So we are starting with the ordinance.
I think we need to start the other way around.
Okay.
We can take this from, do the land use plan first.
Okay.
Jim, that's where we started. Obviously, one of the things that we need to change, obviously, is the dates on here, and I'm sure it'll do that automatically. There is on page 5, a reference to the city of Pleasanton, which should be
Oh, yeah.
If you could highlight that,
Okay.
please. And,
Where did we see that?
Under using the map section,
Using the
third
maps.
line.
and the third line says Pleasanton,
Got it.
so we need to change that to Floresville, obviously change the dates on it. Other than that, I have no other corrections or, I've read this till I'm blue in the face. But it wasn't as bad as the, parking ordinances. Fell asleep twice reading those. Delete that.
I did have a question, well, not so much a question, but I guess a concern. On page 2, number 12, where it talks about the central part of Floresville, including the historic school, will be susceptible to degradation by uses that are inconsistent with its character. Revising the zoning ordinance is recommended to foster development and redevelopment. So moving away from the pyramid or cumulative, which is what we have now, to an overlay. And then Teddy and I got a chance to kind of like real touch what overlay is, and it makes sense, because overlay is actually, if I'm correct, Teddy, putting more restrictions. Like, if you're gonna have your downtown historical, then you can't have, topless bar in there, I guess, or welding shop or something.
Well,
I mean, I don't know, help me out, guys.
Yeah, last time Chris was here, we talked about the moving away from this pyramid.
Yes.
And I'm trying to remember exactly what he said, why the pyramid is bad, because things get grandfathered in.
Well, not only that, anybody can come in with a special use permit and put a mobile home park smack dab in the middle of a historical, they can at this
because
point.
is it zone commercial?
Because it's zoned as such, and in that zoning, it tells you what they can have on it.
Yeah,
So, or it tells you, if you're on R2, you can use all the uses of R1. If you're on if
There you
you're on
go.
business, you can use R2 and R, like
Mhm.
such.
yeah, it covers anything
Yeah.
beneath it.
So-
Which is wrong.
Yeah, so,
That's a
With
city
an
council.
overlay, so with an overlay like out on 97, they're R1, and if we allow, say, was it retail or
Mhm.
business, they can't do R2, they can do R1 or
Right.
yeah.
the other, it's just non-communicable.
Well, it's and I don't know if we want to reword that, it's a strong recommendation from this committee that we move away from the pyramid. But that has to be a city council decision, and I don't know if that will require Chris Stewart to do more work, which would be outside the scope of his instructions right now. In other words, it's going to cost us more money.
To restructure
Right.
a whole new kind of zoning, yeah.
Well, I think it wouldn't be that, would it be that difficult?
I don't
Because
think
now
we have
somewhere
to-
it says our zoning's cumulative, and otherwise it's say it's overlay and give a definition.
Right. I don't think it would take that much to do.
We could even,
But it would be,
we could even look at what other small cities like ours size,
And Christian,
or even up to 10 or 15,000 population, did they get away from the cumulative type of zoning and kind of
Cities
borrow
don't even have
their ordinance and see, you know, if it works for their city, you know?
do you know if there's anything in the city charter about zoning?
that would be.
On the charter itself?
I know it's gonna be pretty big.
So,
Because that requires a,
okay, so your definition of your special use, is that you use it other than what's it zoned for?
The special use permit, it can only be applied or issued on commercial zone property.
So not residential?
Not residential.
Right, and we won't, it takes, you gotta beat us all up to change from residential to commercial. We just,
Even whether the current zoning is established, that's the highest and best use, is what you're saying, that you've already established.
Yeah.
That's also, the highest and best use in reference to that, okay. And you're concerned with number 11, I mean, number
Number
12 is what?
Well, that if we keep the pyramid or cumulative type zoning that we have now, like I was saying, anybody can come in and say, I want to put a trailer park, like right somewhere in that district downtown.
because it's all zone commercial. Of course, they have to be approved for a special.
A trailer park is not commercial, it's
It's special.
It's special
use.
use.
And we only give special use commercial.
But they still have to come and apply to the
For
board.
special use.
For special use.
Or
And if they meet everything that the ordinance requires, we,
But I thought we put a moratorium on it.
We have.
but it's up in
It's moving along pretty fast.
June or July.
Yeah, that's coming up in, I think, April.
Yeah, I got a couple phone calls with it.
And we're still getting phone calls on establishing RV parks in the city still. We're still getting phone calls.
How did the zoning work, Cindy, on off of Sunnyside Road, where they parked all those trucks behind it?
Well, see, and that's interesting, that's an interesting question, because that's all residential, all of Sunnyside. both sides, okay? The particular property you're talking about is zone residential. From what I understand, it's rental property at this time. And I've called the police department on this years ago, because we had another situation on another rental property where they're parking their big tanker trucks in the property. The officer told me that as long as it's in their property, it's allowed.
How is that?
That's what he
Zoning
told me.
is what it's used for. I mean, the purpose of zoning is to say, you can use this property for this purposes in this area. And if that is zone residential, it has to be used for a residential purpose. You cannot convert a residential property to commercial without having the zoning approval.
Because
It's what the
Or
purpose.
mixed use, because they're using half for a house and half.
It's what, so the zoning is to give us direction as to what the property is to be used for. And so if it's used for parking trucks, then it's not to have it in the
They're also
residential.
parking an RV back there. I don't know if it's hooked up.
Well, but then look at all the residential areas that have their RVs parked in their driveways and backyards.
That's fine, but you can't hook it up for
And that's
a
exactly.
long period.
Yeah,
Exactly
but
right.
what I saw is not a residential RV or, my mother-in-law's coming to stay with me for
No.
vacation time. It's not that kind, that is commercial parking, commercial truck parking, which can't happen in residential, which totally negates why you have zoning in the first place. If it's my property, I can do whatever I
That's why you talk
want.
about doing
And see, and like I said, that's what the officer told me, because I was all ready to send him out there, issue him a ticket for that. And he told me, that's what he told me, and he also told me if it's parked in the right-of-way easement, yes, then he can give him a ticket, which doesn't, I'm like, okay.
No.
But if it's in private property, he
But
says, I
so-
can't do
so-
anything
So
about
what we
it.
have to do is zoning, we have to understand the purpose of zoning is, we look at this land use is what we do. The purpose of zoning is say, the government has a reason to tell you, you can use your property for this purpose. And if your purpose is, and we definitely wanna protect the purpose of residential.
We may need better definitions of what constitutes residential.
And that could be what we can do in reference to, and I know that's in the ordinance book, because it talks about how many chickens you can have and
Sure.
and I have to get used to saying, but the definition is there for residential, but the purpose is there. There definitely is no residential, those commercial trucks and commercial trucks. So if we could reference in the land use, the current zoning, we probably need to reference this, even though as it's updated and amended, we need to reference someplace in there about how it's defined and or referencing the ordinances itself. I had a question on page 5 in reference to annexation of properties, because that's something I've been focusing on. Apparently, I know everybody knows, it was a discovery for me that the community civic center is not in the city limits
So the
itself.
E2J is not in the city limits.
Right, which is why 4A can't meet there. They can't have their meetings there
Or
because
the annexation.
they can't meet. And it's about, it started the process and somehow it got lost. So that's one of the things we're gonna look at. And it talks about friendly annexation. However,
Voluntary annexation, yeah.
yeah, so we're gonna be working on that, but I think, I'd rather not say leaving involuntary annexation only as a last option. The reason why I'm saying this is because, Teddy, when we were standing out there at that gentleman's property, Richardson's Chevrolet, that needs to be annexed in. And some
And
of
they
it,
volunteered it.
they volunteer, but it's the people I have to get to in between them, because they have to touch me on at least one side. And so we may wanna say, I don't wanna say that leaving involuntary annexation only as a last option for managing growth. I don't know if that's, I don't know if I want the city to say that that's their last
Yeah.
option. That's what it says. It says voluntary annexation should be sought at all times, which I agree. Leaving involuntary annexation only as a last option for managing growth. Yeah, because the first priority is to annex those areas which are surrounded on 3 sides or more by the corporate limit special. Because there's a plan that's out there. I didn't create it. There's a 3-year annexation plan and there's a 5-year annexation plan. One of the things along that commercial corridor McCoy's is in, and Walmart is in, well, some of it is. Walmart is in, and then there's this Roper's and Mr. Attorney that's not in.
Yeah.
But
All
it's,
along
but
there.
it's surrounded on three sides.
Mhm.
And so we need to have a plan for our, to have our growth, as we talk about our growth, of how we're going to put this thing together. Because it's a puzzle piece right now, we need to be able to put it together.
Right.
Because if I have my druthers, I'm gonna reach way down into that industrial park and annex that bad fellow in too. So it's a three, so we have to think about that. I just didn't like the words about, you know.
Do you think it just needs rewording?
We could just take it, just to say that, you know, is our second option, just not our last option. I mean, that's all. I mean, I just wanna say it's our.
Or just as an option?
You know, is a second option or additional option. I just don't wanna say it's our last option. That means to me that I'm,
Yeah.
only if I have to, that's my last
I
option.
like the word additional.
Me too.
I think an additional option.
When you're hungry, just
Okay.
want, love them.
Money.
Color of money, green grass
I
and
said
green.
no, that was. So we can say, we said another option, additional option.
Additional.
Additional.
Thank you, I'm just being, I guess I'm being semantic right now. There's no, in zoning, and Tim, you have to help me out.
Mhm.
In the zoning, the commercial, it's just one, there's no commercial one or two?
No, it's only just one, which is C, and it's commercial. That's all we got. And we don't have mixed use. We have R for residential, single-family dwelling, R2, which is multifamily and townhomes, and then B, business, and then C, commercial, and then we have industry, industrial.
And you have the definitions where?
In our zoning ordinance, in our ordinance book. And the last time that those definitions have been there in 1995.
When we look at page 6, it has the annexation of the civic center as being a third priority.
So we should do that as one, the first one?
No, I think the first priority is right, going north on US 181 up to where Teddy is. Let's get some sales tax from Teddy.
Good luck. I'm sorry.
But I would have thought that the second would have been to get the civic center.
So you want to switch
within-
that up?
I think so.
I'm sorry, you said page 6, we were on annexation. I had to go get numbers.
Talking about, Henrietta, talking about the priorities, and
Yes.
I agree with the first priority, because that's what we're talking about with north of Walmart, is getting that,
Yeah,
but
and
then they've got down here, as the third priority, would be towards the civic center. I think that should be second. I know what you guys think.
see that? Well, actually, my first priority is the civic center.
You don't even have it on here.
He does one of the bottom.
Oh, okay.
Well, the
Okay.
first priority has to be to get that Richardson's.
And I believe I've proposed this before, is if we go up McCoy's side of the road to Richardson
And then cut across.
and cut across, I think we would be successful with a voluntary annexation of that due to the fact it's mainly raw land.
Yeah, we've only got to go back 1,000 feet.
Yeah, and then work on the other side of the road.
You don't have to help me walk through this. Starting with first priority is in the progression
You
to,
want the progression.
Going north,
To
past
the-
Walmart,
okay, so how far?
up
There's
to where
Walmart.
Business 181 links, where the Business 181 cuts off. If you were coming south, it's where you go to the golf
Yes,
club.
we need to go that far.
Teddy's
This-
office.
This represents a total distance of about 2 miles, that's not that far. From the current city limits, it should be able to accomplish on a voluntary basis. This area is designated as a first priority, significant to retail. Okay, looking at this, so you have a map. Is this map showing, is it in the gray area? Because that's what was proposed, some time ago. No, it's not in the gray
That's,
area.
I don't think so. Better eyes than mine. Here's,
Oh, here we go.
here's Walmart,
This is Newark.
and that's
Yes,
North.
it is.
Yeah, it's in the gray area.
Is it?
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I was looking in the dark side.
Okay, show me Walmart. Okay, and where were we at the ground breaking ceremony?
It's here, it's right by the river, isn't it?
What is?
Hang on a minute,
And Richard.
that's McCoy's, where's Richardson? Right in here, isn't it?
Here's Walmart, see that Walmart?
I'm
So,
sorry, I thought that was
so
Walmart.
Richardson should be here somewhere.
Right there.
So the optimum goal is to go how far north? How far, I mean, if we,
All the way up to
Here.
what we call the Y.
that's a
Where our
long
office-
way.
And actually, see,
Where our office is at.
see, this is the ETJ, the one in green is the ETJ, this is what we should be planning. I think he has the legend down there.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. This is the map that the student.
So his, Chris, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Chris, his thing is say that we need to first get out to the ETJ, right, and then ultimately get out here.
Actually,
Get to
this
here.
is not a annexation, this is more of a zoning.
Yeah, this is the future land use map
Yeah.
that he wants to use, where he's proposing this,
Mhm.
So our ETJ,
is in the green line.
is that green right there?
Mhm. Because it's 1 mile
From
from the city limits,
Right.
But over
I
in
thought
Richards, you
ETJ was
have,
2 miles.
one,
one.
because of our population.
you already got more stuff going out there. You're gonna wanna pick them up, you go out there where the road,
It has to be a priority number one to
There's-
go north.
there's a lot of tax dollars you're gonna grab.
Yeah.
Well, Ditmar's out there.
You're gonna get Denmark, you're gonna get deep, you're gonna get Ewald tractor.
Yeah, that's why you-
There's a bunch of things going in between.
But I don't know how friendly the annexation can be though, I mean,
Well, that's your job.
Well, I gotta help with my southern charm, I got to work on my southern charm because, I think that, for me, I wanna attack the easy ones. I know the one going out to the civic center should be not easy.
It should
It's
be
5 or 6, I'm gonna cut
easy.
my teeth on that one.
Yeah.
It should be kinda easy, and the gentleman, they're telling me, the 2 solos to property, what's his name?
Richard Ullman?
Omen, will probably, and it's like a little sliver to,
Mhm.
it's not occupied, it's vacant land. He probably will let us annex that in.
Well, the city put all the water in there for him when they gave him the first
Yeah,
park.
so,
They have all the fire hydrants and all the water there.
So because I
Hello?
think that's a friendly one, I think we should be able to accomplish that without a problem. That's the first one, and we really have a purpose to that. Then we need to go ahead and just take people and stop playing. We just go up there and that attorney's office and Roper, they need to just be,
Automatic.
It's done, we surround him on 3 sides. The only side he's open is on his back door, and that's the county. We surround him on 3 sides, there's no.
But you're saying that the house for the civic center should be first priority?
I need to cut my teeth on that one, I think that's a friendly one.
See, I would disagree, and that's simply because of what Ray was saying.
There's no
If
ink
it's-
on
if
it.
there's
There's
no
no
ink,
tax.
You're not gonna get any
The only
money.
tax you're gonna,
Oh, I'm not gonna get any taxes on a tax roll, them 4 or 5 houses are
yeah,
not big, I'm just saying because
Our public
Our-
facility is there.
I'm vulnerable on that end, mainly because police services is a city building, I'm having city-sponsored events literally out of my town, and technically, the police shouldn't go out there
Mhm.
and have much
I
enforcement.
thought they should if it was in the ETJ.
Their powers are reduced and diluted as they go outside.
Yes, exactly, yeah, they
It's
can't go
it's
in.
diluted, it's diluted as they leave town, of course, police officers can enforce any place, anywhere, they are power of police, but I'm diluted in reference to it to do that, but that's a simple thing, I think these are gonna have to be a lot, as we go north, it's definitely gonna be more complicated, because we talk about companies that exist, peoples who are not necessarily using them.
there's not a lot of population
No, I mean, but
of any kind.
people.
There is some that would be beneficial, such as Ewald.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna reinvent the wheel, I'm just gonna bring out the old plans that we did before and have us to go back and try to be able to do that. I think I can probably do that one with the Civic Center in my sleep, but we're gonna need some people to help us to identify and also start having meetings in reference to why it's a good thing to come and be part of our development. And I think this land, why, I mean, I'm gonna come to you, you've been out there for 22 years, like, ain't nobody, why do I wanna become part of Floresville? When you be able to tell them it's a wonderful economic development plan, which EDC's gonna be working on, right? Or when you wear that other hat.
Mhm.
So we have to sell it as to why. The one reason why, now this could be just Illinois, but the one thing that people don't like to come into, and they like being on the outskirts, is because they have less restrictions. They don't have a city telling them what they can and cannot build in a permit, and of course, they pay less taxes. So it has to be a sell for people to say, well, I'm gonna come part of it.
Okay, how long would it take, for instance, I have a friend right here in this development, Jack Henderson. And if I were, he's in his 70s, still shoes horses. He and his wife live out there on 5 acres. If I go to Jack, he'll be hard to, and I'll say, why won't you know, I want you to come in the city limits. What do you think? He'll go, what are you gonna give me? If I pay for something, don't mind paying for something that I'm getting. You say, well, in 3 years, we're gonna have sewer, we're gonna have da-da-da-da. It goes in 3 years, I'll pay. Can we give them a tax abatement?
The tax abatement is gonna be hard sell, because if you just have one taxing body, which is just the city, our taxing portion is this much of his tax bill. The schools is what's, you know,
We're
more,
already
and
paying
the county
schools. Already paying
is
for
our,
tax.
but I'm
Yeah.
saying, for it to really count, because, you know, we do tax and have, for it to really make, for him to really see, for me to say I'm gonna give him $10 off his bill,
You'd be surprised.
but what we can do is we can tell him that the value of his property will increase. I hope he doesn't listen to that too hard, because when your value increases,
Your
your
taxes
increase.
go up.
But if you wanna sell your property, or you wanna subdivide,
That's when.
That's true.
that's when your value is gonna be there. And so the development's gotta be able to say, we have to be able to come and do that. So that's what I'm saying, it's a sale that we have to come up with, it's something that we're gonna have to market once we come up with this plan and say, look, this is what's coming, because eventually Henrietta's gonna get her a Buckley store,
All right,
a flying aid that's gonna
I
work.
have 2 friends in Floresville. The other one lives across from Mansera. They have 5 acres. If they come in the city, are we gonna raise their value to best use? Because it's just a house right now.
I don't know how they tax, how do they
So are they gonna
raise their
change
value?
their value to
Oh, because of the
$1
agriculture
million?
now? Is it agriculture?
No, it's only 5 acres.
You said, what, is it 10 acres to be agriculture or something like that?
You have to buy 11 acres, have 1 acre your homestead, and the 10 can be ag exempt.
I learned that. I'm learning this thing. And every property, you know, and that's what we have to get an understanding, because
Yeah.
as Cindy says, it's more so of the assessor for the county that assesses that. We have to come up with a plan in reference to do that. But I'm glad that we have an annexation plan. We have to go and get it, and I will be as friendly as I possibly can. Because Mr. Bob Post would use my southern charm, but we have to come, just to say, it is a hard sell. It's the reason why people don't mind living on the outskirts. But now the other thing is, say, you're gonna have protection, you know,
Protection of who builds
police
what next.
protection, you can have a say-so, you can have, you know, they probably have complained about why they doing this in town, or why, well, you don't have a vote, you have no voice other than what's happening in the county. You wanna invest what's happening, and over the time, these landowners have to have seen how Floresville has grown. They have to.
I think
They all know it's-
they're expecting.
Yeah, they're expected to be commercial, and then just look around, you know, all over the Y, you have the commercials running and all that, and everybody knows it's coming all the way out. You, somebody coming to town looking at new commercial developments, that's where they're looking.
Yeah, and if he's 70 years old, he may say, you know what, this
You
not
better not, I may need to shoot my horses.
He said, I may not be, I'm not gonna be here forever, I may wanna, sell some of it, or, you probably have land other places, they start thinking about, and we put those little 5 acres together, then all we have to do is touch it on one side, that's really nice. If I touch it on 2 sides, it's even better. If I touch it on 3 sides, it's mine.
I met with Three Bears from Houston, and And their maps are far better than ours of what they project is gonna happen in Floresville over the next 10 years. And what they see gonna happen, what this is gonna do, what they intend to try to bring in, whether it be retail, restaurants, and all the above. And every bit of it's going on.
Yeah, I met, actually Cindy and I met, you met me with TechDOT.
Oh, yes.
We met with TechDOT, and they have some long-range plans of roads too. And I'd have to agree with the chairman, everything's coming up and down, 181, everything's going north. And, we really have to come up with a really good plan, because as we've been, and I'm not trying to be insulting, as we've been doing this hodgepodge planning, it has to be more contiguous. I mean, one of those properties that we talked about, they are literally where it's a driveway now, they're saying if you develop it, you're taking away that end opening, they don't even want those anymore. Okay, so what we have to be able to say, that think about how TechDOT's thinking, and now we have a better understanding about how they're thinking. As we're proposing up and down, we're gonna have to be able to think smart on how we can get people on and off this. Because sometimes we have up to 19,000 vehicles a day. I'm saying, I don't think more than 85–90% of them are trucks. We haven't had that truck traffic, we don't have to deal with the truck traffic again. I don't pick up my son at 4:15 because it's crazy. You know, I told him, they run across the street to HEB, I'll pick you up.
Get run.
Because he can do it right at that light, because
Yeah.
me trying to get up there, it's a madhouse. And so, because we needed to think, and if TechDOT had to permit the high school right now, they would not give them what they had. So we have to think about that. We have to come up with a plan in hand, as we have to sell this, which I think is what he's trying to say is in the friendly annexation. We have to sell our plan. We don't necessarily have our plan together yet, but we have to sell our plan of what the highest and best use is
Yeah.
of that corridor. That's prime property all up and down 181. But we have to make it visually appealing.
I don't want to drift too far off what we're here to do today.
So on this one,
And
so,
so we're still on page 6,
six.
and we're talking about changing priorities.
Well, if,
When one looks, I understand what you're saying about coming out of the civic center. When one looks at the monetary aspect of going north on 181, because we're losing Richardson's out of the 10 zone, or out of the exempt tax zone, and moving them outside. So we're going to lose that money. We're getting
How much
that
money?
Right.
You know, losing just tax property, but also inventory,
Right.
and there's a big change.
Yeah, there's a lot of money that we're losing, which is why I think it's a priority to go north
okay.
and
Yeah.
try and get that voluntary annexed before they complete the construction.
Oh, yeah.
And doing, it's not to say that you couldn't do it simultaneously, because the thing working with Mr. Ullman going to the west is not, you're dealing with basically poor landowners, him being the primary landowner.
We can do it all at the same time.
Yeah, it's an easy fix going that
It's an
way.
easy fix. But I just want to make sure that we have our priorities correct,
You know,
because I think.
with that being said, in our city parks outside of the city.
Yeah.
So do we want to put A, still keep it as the,
Let's go north.
and then B is going to be the civic center?
No, A is going going south.
Oh,
The first paragraph deals with going north.
okay, so that's A.
Sharing the first priority is,
And then B is the, oh, I see, second priority. Okay, I got you.
so I would want, where he's got at the bottom there, third priority annexing
That would be B.
towards the civic center, bring that in as A. And then what the others down, then it becomes B, it becomes C, C becomes D.
Do you have a copy of that?
But there's no reason at all, there is no reason at all why we can't work on both those
Yeah.
applications at the same time.
Did you get one?
they know it to you?
Well, we have a,
There's one we can take.
Give me the agenda. And
That's like a newspaper, man, 75 cents.
There you go.
Okay, we were there. Okay, I forgot about that. Appreciate it.
we got that.
so we have, that's how we want it to see.
The first priority is the north, and then A is the, for the third priority annexation, and then B is the south. Kind of pushing everything slow, I mean, fast.
So the first is north, A is third priority at the bottom, then A is going to be CBC.
You got it more than
This
that.
is-
This was a,
Thank you.
oh, okay.
We can move things around. On the second priority.
Oh, this is a
second-
kind of
Yeah,
day.
the
All right,
second
got it,
priority
got it.
became A.
And then we're gonna put
Because
it
the last one is an
Third
additional.
A.
Okay.
This is different one. That's her number one priority if you're going north.
Okay.
Okay, with those changes, are we happy?
He's here from BTC.
Committee?
Yes.
Right?
I'm fine with that. I'll do that.
Yeah. Then I would like to get a proposal to recommend that with the changes we've made, that we approve future land use plan.
Go ahead, Ted, you.
I make the motion that we approve the future land use plan for the city of Floresville with the corrections and additions we've made.
Second.
We have a motion by Teddy, second by Ray, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. And just as an aside to that, if you can get that back to Chris,
Mhm.
for him to make the necessary adjustments, and then get it back to us by email so we can double check that he's done all that. And once that's done, and I want him to do it quickly, because I'd like to set the date for the public hearing of this
Okay.
meeting. In other words, can't force him to getting it back to us.
Okay.
Once we've done the public hearing, then we can put it on city council.
And I guess you're expecting a huge crowd at the public hearing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Check.
but I was gonna hire the city hall.
It's out of town.
We'll probably have this many.
None of we enlist our friend over there, we're gonna encourage people to come.
But I'd like to get it in the newspaper, when we set the public. Because I'd like people to come, I'd like people to see it. I hate when we do all this work, and then we put it into effect, and they go, well, I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
That's Floresville to
How many
see.
days do we notice do we have to give? How far out do we have to make this?
I'd have to get with Chris Stewart on that, because there's nowhere in the ordinance where it says.
You have to run it 3 weeks in a row before you can.
Set a public hearing for the final grant. How far out? Is it
It's
10
usually
days?
it's sometime between 10 to 15 days,
Okay.
that you have to have notice.
We need Chris here for that.
Yes.
I think that for 3 notices, 3 in the paper, 3 consecutive weeks.
I don't know what to look at the notice.
Hearing.
Notice for public hearing.
Parking.
Okay, let's move on to, I know I'm jumping around on this,
Which one?
the drafting zoning ordinance.
Is it the draft one?
Zoning,
Which one is
is it,
that? This one?
That one.
Oh.
okay, so help me out here. This is the ordinance for the land use plan?
Or recommended,
So do we need to look at this?
These are recommendations to,
The recommendations are on,
So
on
this
revision.
goes, but this is to adopt the land use plan,
Right.
this ordinance that Chris
Drafted
drafted.
zoning ordinance.
okay, that goes with this.
Yeah, I think that.
Yes, yes, that goes with that, exactly.
Right.
But
Okay.
this is,
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
this is
Okay.
So that's okay.
okay, this is just the formality.
just a formality,
Okay.
once we, right.
Okay, gotcha.
So we need to adopt that. And so then these are recommendations that,
For the zoning
to
ordinance.
change it for the zone, okay. Which may answer some of those questions that you had
Let's
earlier.
see, let's see, let's see.
I agree with adding a public facilities district, which would remove fire stations, utility stations, schools from the R1 district and put them in their own separate public facilities.
Yeah, because it is under R1
Yeah,
hospitals.
yeah. That's not
Crazy,
right.
yeah. Schools. But even in San Antonio, you see schools smack dab in the middle of residential areas,
Right.
so.
Also on the, four is to add an agricultural or open
Yes.
space district that can include parks,
Parks,
playgrounds,
farms.
golf courses, farms, nurseries, and remove these uses from residential districts, which is good.
Yeah.
That's good, that's really good.
Yeah, this is,
We have a lot of that.
yeah. And then as Floresville grows, we're gonna get more of the duplexes and triplexes in here.
Mhm.
So having a separate zoning for them would be good as well. They're not just swallowed up in just one big zoning.
Well, we
And the
do,
reason for, sorry, go ahead.
but we do have it, we do have R2. Well, the,
R2 is more,
The reason for doing a more detailed zoning is to
Yeah.
get more discussion about,
oh, but avoids the potential of multifamily projects being developed where a duplex site might be.
Right.
Okay.
the more, you know, I don't like rules and I don't like more government.
Yeah,
But when it comes to zoning, protecting the people that are currently there and having more rules so that they get more involved and get more opportunity to voice an opposition is, I think is very important.
I agree.
see that, and then he added an R3, which is 10 units per acre and up,
Mm-hmm.
which is what we have at Paloma right now.
So true multifamily, which is 10 units
Mm-hmm.
per acre and up,
Mm-hmm.
should have a separate district, R3,
Which we don't have.
which,
So R three would be new?
Yes,
New
Mm-hmm.
option,
We only have R2.
we only have R2.
yeah,
so R three,
R3 is new.
and then we would create a map as to where these areas are? Or
Yeah, I guess so.
if we're already R three, and we're literally talking about my back door, since that's where I live on Paloma.
Exactly.
That zone R3, we have to,
Remap it.
you'd have to, yeah, to have enough, so we,
What's R3, R2, R1?
oh, what would you do as projects come in and say, because you're because what you're proposing is a multifamily, it's gonna be zoned R3, and they have to come before the zoning board to zone it from R1 to R3 by
Correct.
definition.
and that permission would not be unreasonably withheld.
Especially if we're moving, what if someone from 97 East said, I want to put a big old apartment complex down there? or rent. Maybe he'll buy some land north and we'll split the rural market complex.
But not to necessarily encourage more government, but because right now it's zoned the R1 or the R2, in order for them to do something like that, they'd have to come and ask to change the zoning.
Right,
So they'd have to meet the criteria that you set forth.
and again, at every one of those, when they come before the P and Z, there is opportunity for public discussion right at the beginning of the meeting. So if anybody is vehemently opposed to it, then they can say, have their say.
I have a question, and it's a little bit off page with this, but it's kind of, it leads back into it. For example, the industrial park that exists is city property. Correct? Correct.
City owned.
City owned. It's city. So will city zoning, can that be implemented out there? For the reason being, what you're having, that was never platted. It was never engineered, it was never. But now you have people go in and they're taking, for example, a 20-acre tract and breaking it up into 3 spots or whatever. Well, you can't.
Who's giving them permission to do that?
That's my point. Who's, are they under our guidelines or they're under the county's guidelines? Because it's being done and you really can't chop something. Tell you this, you can chop something, cut it in half, but you can't do more than one split.
It's not even in the ETJ.
It's not an ETJ.
So we have no jurisdiction over it whatsoever.
You know, none.
So we own something that we have no control over.
Mm-mm.
Bingo.
Yeah,
That's a good thing.
that's not,
You can do that.
I didn't
The business district,
Yeah, I was looking at that.
this is split into two,
Mhm.
a neighborhood business and a retail and service business. So I would assume, and it may not be a right assumption, that like downtown Floresville is pretty considered neighborhood businesses? And then retail businesses would be those on 181?
That's a good question because I'm looking at neighborhood businesses as someone,
Like Squeaks.
Squeaks.
yes, or someone who's
It's a little ice house on the road.
I'm like,
or,
what's
a- or a beauty salon
Mm-hmm.
that she wants to do out of her home because the state allows it. The state allows it.
I know, look, I got the spa lady
I know,
right down the
I know,
street now.
I know. And, or they wanna do like home sewing alterations, or,
Just an office in your house.
8 and 9 kind of,
but where people are gonna go in and out of their building, their house. So, that, maybe we need to ask Chris on that.
We need definitions, all this needs definitions.
well, 9 is pretty explanatory because local retail would be less than 10,000 square feet.
Yeah,
Regional retail greater than 10,000 square feet. Then include local retail within the B1 and B2, but regional retail within B2 only. That makes sense.
Cause you got retail that's just 1,000 square feet, or even
Mhm.
500 square feet.
Right.
You got people downtown, like that sandwich shop, or,
the ice cream.
Yeah, Scoops is
Mhm.
less
It's
than
so
probably
small.
500 feet, it's
yeah,
small.
small.
So that would
So,
be considered a B1?
that's what I'm thinking.
It would be a B1 neighborhood business. Yeah. Let's make a comment there on your email, Chris, to define number 8
Define?
and
Number
give
8.
us a broader explanation of that, please.
Okay.
Number 13 is I'm ashamed, and I don't know the answer to this, but add a bed and breakfast use that is distinct from the hotel motel use will require a special use permit for this use within B1. Does the bed and breakfast pay the hotel motel tax?
I can't answer that because I don't know.
I don't know either.
They should. I don't know now.
How many we got? One?
We have one bed and breakfast, and that's downtown.
We can look on the
I can look on the
comptroller's
state's,
website
state's
and
website and
see
check
if they're
that.
supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm making a note on that one, I'll go on and look on that one.
Yeah, I could run on the water for nice. He's on his way. So what's, bed and breakfast is classified differently than a hotel motel?
Because you're all in one front door. Just renting out the bedrooms out of that. I'll call that something else.
Mhm.
You got boarding house. I'm thinking boarding house, you think.
Why?
I know what
Yeah.
you're.
Start
Go
with
to the kitchen.
Yeah, that's
We got
good.
that.
I'm on YouTube, so I'm behaving.
Yeah, really.
Jeez, I know, well, okay.
Okay, number 14, what is 153?
153.033. Zoning
A 153.033 district,
use.
okay, this is what he's saying, it says, use of a building or premise shall be used only for the following purpose. Any permitted use in R2, automobile parking lots, bakeries, retail sales only, banks, bowling alleys, dancing, floor shops, frozen food lockers, so they're saying that, they're defining District B, which is on, in my page, it's page 43 of the zone one page.
Mhm.
Forty-three, yeah.
Let's do it. And page 43, she said?
C1, B2.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
This came up when we were talking about our friend, the Sudas.
Oh. Oh, harmonious.
Mm-hmm.
Some food signs as a permitted use.